Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something real. What if the people who walked away were never meant to go the distance with you? What if the quiet moments in your life right now are the sound of God rearranging everything behind the scenes to bless you in ways you can't yet see? You're not broken, you're not forgotten, you're being transformed. Because the most fearless, unstoppable, powerful woman on this earth is the one who learns how to walk alone and still hold her head up high. You want to know what sets her apart? She doesn't chase crowds. She doesn't beg for love. She finds peace in the quiet and builds an empire inside her soul. This isn't just another speech. This is your wake-up call. Because once you taste the power of walking alone and truly looking within, there's no going back. Stay with me until the end. Because by the time we're through, you'll stop fearing solitude and start recognizing it as your secret weapon. Let that sit with you for a moment. We've been taught to run from being alone, trained to believe that if no one's around, something's wrong. But let me tell you, there's a big difference between isolation and elevation, between being alone and being aligned. The woman who walks alone isn't walking away from life, she's walking back into herself. She's not escaping anything. She's reclaiming everything she lost while trying to be everything for everyone else. In solitude, there's no applause, no validation, no distractions to cover up the pain or boost the ego. It's just her, raw, unfiltered, and real. And that's where the true power takes root. That's where the strength is born. That's where clarity finds her. Because when she pulls away from the noise, when she sits in the stillness, she finally hears a voice that's been ignored for far too long, her own. This world tries to convince her that silence is weakness, that being alone is something to avoid. But those who rise, those who live with purpose, they didn't find strength in the crowd, they discovered it in the silence. They weren't shaped in the spotlight. They were formed in the shadows, in the quiet hours when the tears wouldn't stop, in the mornings when only a whisper of hope held them together. Solitude is where she starts trusting herself again. She doesn't ask the world who she is anymore, she already knows. And that's a threat to anyone who thought she needed them to make it. She learns to walk through fire without flinching. She learns how to breathe life into herself when no one's there to hold her hand. She learns to speak strength over her spirit when no one else knows what she's battling. That's the power of walking alone. You stop needing outside energy to keep your fire burning. You realize that peace is something you build from within. And when you stop fearing your own presence, when you start falling in love with your own company, you unlock a version of yourself the world isn't prepared for. A woman who feels safe in her own silence is a woman who's in charge of her own story. There's a sacred strength that comes from walking alone. While others chase attention, she seeks alignment. While they scroll through highlight reels, she dives deep into what's real. While they're out trying to belong, she stays in her lane, crafting something they can't even imagine. It's not easy. Walking alone will challenge you. It'll make you question everything. It'll break your heart and expose your weak spots, but it will also sharpen your vision. It will teach you discipline. It will show you who's genuine and who is just there for the benefits. It will separate noise from truth, illusion from purpose, and in that sacred process, something powerful takes place. You stop begging for peace and start becoming it. You stop chasing people who drain you and start pouring into yourself. She walks alone, not because she's hard to love, but because she's tired of being misread, mistreated, and misused. She'd rather be alone in truth than surrounded by lies. She'd rather endure a season of loneliness than live a lifetime pretending to be someone she's not. Because the woman who chooses solitude isn't running away, she's returning to her roots, her truth, her worth. She's picking up pieces she lost trying to meet everyone else's expectations, and as she learns to love herself without conditions, she attracts blessings. The kind of blessings that don't show up when you're performing or pleasing. These blessings come when you're honest with yourself, when you sit with your pain instead of numbing it, when you stop running from your reflection and start walking with it. The woman who walks alone doesn't need the crowd's eyes on her to feel seen. She sees herself, and when she starts to focus inward on her healing, her growth, her calling, everything starts to shift. The world that once made her feel small begins to realize she was never meant to blend in. She was born to stand apart. And that's what solitude reveals. That her power doesn't come from attention. It comes from surrender. Surrendering to the process, to the silence, to the sacred stillness where true change takes place. Not on stages, not in front of cameras, but in secret, in the quiet. Solitude is not emptiness, it's divine preparation, a sacred season of rebuilding, and the woman who welcomes it becomes unstoppable, not because she has all the answers, but because she finally knows who she really is. She walks alone, but not empty. She walks full of strength, of vision, of intention. And the world should take notice, because a woman like that doesn't need to be noticed to shine. She is the light. In a noisy world where everyone is posting, speaking, trying to prove something, there's a woman who chooses a different path. She chooses silence. Not because she has nothing to say, but because she's strong enough not to say everything. It's silence. It's not weakness. It's discipline. It's control. It's a strength most people can't even imagine. Because it's easy to react, it's easy to argue, it's easy to explain yourself when people question you. But when a woman learns to be silent, when she learns to retreat instead of rush, she steps into a deeper kind of power. A power that doesn't need an audience to be real. A power that's calm, collected, and undeniable. That silence isn't passive, it's purposeful. It's choosing to observe instead of overreact, to reflect instead of lash out. That kind of self-restraint, that's courage. She finds her balance again. It's where she listens to the truth buried under the pressure. It's where she feels the weight she's been carrying and starts to release it. It's where she remembers who she is. Because when you're always surrounded by voices, you forget how to hear your own. But when she steps back from the chaos, her strength returns. Not loud, but focused. Not angry, but aligned. She doesn't need to raise her voice to make her point. Her presence is enough. Her quiet makes people uneasy because it speaks volumes. It says she's done playing. It says she's reclaiming her peace. And when a woman chooses peace, everything changes. They used to call her soft. They mistook her kindness for weakness. They assumed her silence meant they had control. But they were wrong. Every quiet moment was her recharge. Every ignored insult was her growth. Every boundary was her awakening. She doesn't argue anymore. She doesn't explain. She doesn't shrink herself for anyone. Her silence isn't empty. It's full of wisdom. It's full of growth. It's full of power. And sometimes the strongest move you can make is no move at all. Sometimes strength looks like walking away. Like choosing peace over pride, like picking growth over ego. A woman who honors silence knows her energy is sacred. Not everyone deserves access to her thoughts, her emotions, her time. She learns to grieve without performance, to process pain without an audience, to rise with purpose, not for applause. Her silence doesn't mean nothing's happening, it means everything is happening inside. That's where the shift begins. That's where her foundation strengthens. That's where her soul breathes again. Because the woman who masters silence masters herself. And that kind of woman, she's not just powerful, she's untouchable. Don't mistake her stillness for surrender. Don't think you've won because you didn't respond. While you were talking, she was growing. While you were showing off, she was getting ready. And when she finally steps out, she won't need to explain a thing. Her life will speak for her. She doesn't need a spotlight to shine. She is the light. The woman who walks in silence walks in strength. not because she chose weakness, but because she chose awakening. She chose to look inward when the world told her to keep performing. She chose healing over hiding. She chose the slow burn of becoming over the quick fix of escaping. And that choice changed everything. When a woman finally chooses herself, truly chooses herself, she becomes a force the world isn't prepared for. Her boundaries are solid now. She listens to her own voice, even if it shakes. That quiet shift shows up in her presence. People can sense it. They notice something's different. She's not chasing anymore, not comparing, not trying to be seen. She's simply being. And that type of peace is rare. It attracts what's real and repels what isn't. She's not in a race anymore. She's not seeking attention or trying to meet expectations that don't fit. The woman who turns inward knows healing isn't some quick fix. It's a battle, a sacred one. It's showing up for yourself on the days you feel forgotten. It's choosing to stay honest even when it hurts. It's making the decision to grow even when staying broken feels easier. She no longer allows her worth to be defined by who accepts or rejects her. She doesn't shrink for comfort, doesn't dim to fit. She walks away from anything that steals her peace, even if it once felt like home. She's done pretending, done explaining. Every time she chooses herself over the noise, she's becoming more of who she's meant to be. When she stops texting to prove a point and starts writing to heal, when she stops reacting and starts breathing, when she stops explaining herself and starts protecting her energy, that's when the shift happens. That's when the inner strength grows deep roots. She's not easily shaken now. She's grounded. Her strength doesn't scream, it whispers. It holds her together when things fall apart. It covers her like a shield. It's quiet but strong, gentle but unbreakable. That power came the day she decided to stop looking outward for what she was always meant to find within. She's no longer afraid of walking alone because the path leads her home, to herself, to her purpose, to her inner peace. She's no longer begging for crumbs of connection when she knows she was made for a feast of love, clarity, and fullness. Her solitude has become her sanctuary, not her punishment. While others chase trends, she chases truth. While the world shouts for validation, she leans into alignment. While others move fast, she moves with wisdom. She's not in a rush because she knows what's for her doesn't require force. She knows presence is more powerful than performance. She's not perfect. She's present. Not flawless, but faithful to her journey. She's not trying to be everything for everyone anymore. She's becoming everything she needs for herself. That's what makes her powerful. Not control, not noise, but stillness, intent, discernment. This is what happens when a woman stops hiding behind masks and starts living with intention. When she stops avoiding hard truths and starts facing them with grace. When she no longer sees her reflection through the lens of others. When she realizes she was never too much. She was just too real for those still pretending. There's a moment in every woman's life when the costume no longer fits. When the performance feels heavy. When the praise feels empty. That moment, as painful as it is, becomes her invitation to rise, to break free, to live a life that actually honors her truth instead of hiding it. She stops asking, what do they think of me? And starts asking, what do I think of me? That one question rewrites everything. The way she moves, the way she speaks, the way she chooses. The woman she's becoming doesn't need approval. She needs alignment. She lets go of the guilt tied to rest. She lets go of the fear tied to saying no. She lets go of the stories that told her she had to earn love. She now walks in her own rhythm. She now speaks in her own voice. She now stands in her own strength. And she does it without apology. Some people won't understand her anymore. That's okay. Some will say she's distant, that she's different, and they're right. She is. She's no longer twisting herself to be liked. She's no longer setting herself on fire to keep others warm. She's choosing herself. And that choice will always offend those who benefited from her silence. But she's not living for comfort anymore. She's living for truth, for peace, for purpose. She doesn't perform. She doesn't chase. She doesn't beg. She doesn't shrink. She knows now. She was never asking for too much. She was just asking the wrong people. And now she doesn't ask at all. She decides, she leads, she lives, she builds tables instead of waiting to be invited to one. She walks in boldness instead of waiting for someone to name her strong. She doesn't just survive anymore, she flourishes freely, fiercely, fully, in her own divine timing and in her own divine way. Let them disappear, because in that quiet, she starts to find her voice again. When the crowd is gone, her inner voice becomes clearer. She notices how much effort she put into trying to be enough for people who never really appreciated her. And then she learns something important. Her value isn't something to argue about. Her worth doesn't depend on who stays or who walks away. She stops trying to make deals with people who don't respect her spirit. And that kind of understanding, it's truly priceless. Yes, walking alone can hurt. It can feel like the whole world turned its back on her. But usually the ones who disappear weren't part of her true circle, they were her lesson. A test to see if she would choose herself, even when others didn't. A challenge to see if she would keep moving forward, even without any support. A moment to prove she could hold her own name, her own dreams, her own calm, without needing someone else's approval. And once she passes that test, everything shifts. She starts pulling in different people, those with depth, people who appreciate her being, not just what she can do, people who are drawn to her energy, not her status, people who understand the beauty of walking beside someone who knows how to stand strong on her own. But until those people arrive, until her real circle finds her, she keeps going, she keeps honoring her truth, she keeps guarding her peace. She doesn't lower her standards just to feel like she fits in. She doesn't hide her light just to be accepted. She doesn't explain her silence to those who are never capable of understanding her heart. Because what she's building right now is much bigger than them. It's bigger than popularity, bigger than being accepted. Jerome didn't just survive being alone. She grows in it. She turning into a woman who doesn't just survive being alone, she grows in it. A woman who knows her peace is far more important than anyone's applause. A woman who understands that those who left weren't losses, they were lessons. And if you're walking alone right now, lift your head high, not because it's easy, but because it matters. Not to prove anything, but to understand your purpose. Let them misjudge you. Let them talk. Let them leave, but don't ever let them make you question your value. You were never supposed to be fully understood by people who don't even understand themselves. Keep walking, keep going, keep choosing yourself. Because when you do that long enough, when you stay true to your soul through all the quiet, the changes, the distance, you don't just walk alone, you rise alone. And that kind of rise, it's unstoppable. When a woman stops chasing and starts attracting, everything around her starts to shift. A powerful change happens when she turns her attention inward. She starts to see that she doesn't have to beg for love, prove herself, or perform just to be noticed. She learns that true strength doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being calm, rooted, and complete. That kind of energy speaks louder than words ever could. Society teaches women to chase love, attention, opportunities, and approval. It tells her that her value comes from how much she gives, how much she's there for others, how easy she is to get along with. But what they don't teach her is how to be still, how to be powerful while quiet, how to be so connected to herself that everything meant for her comes her way without chasing a thing. When a woman chooses to walk alone and look within, something beautiful happens. She stops searching outside and starts growing inside. She feeds her mind, protects her energy, heals her past, and accepts her truth. She finds out that her peace is priceless, her time is precious, and her presence matters. And when she truly believes that, she becomes a force of nature. People can feel her energy before she even speaks. She walks into a room and everything changes, not because she's showing off, but because she's being completely herself. She doesn't overdo, she doesn't explain her worth, she doesn't fight to be seen. She simply exists, confidently and calmly. And that kind of presence pulls the right things toward her. You attract differently when you heal. You attract differently when you stop needing and start choosing. You attract differently when you stop chasing love and start shining it from within. That doesn't mean cutting yourself off. It means lifting yourself up. You go from desperate to wise, from trying to prove yourself to protecting yourself, from acting to just being. And this isn't just about romantic love. This is about every area. Friendships, business, purpose. A woman who turns inward becomes magnetic because she's not scattered anymore. Her energy isn't going to people or places that wear her down. She's whole. And that wholeness sends out a signal. It brings in people, chances, and moments that match her new level. And it also pushes away anything that doesn't. This is what happens when a woman chooses to rise in the quiet, when she builds herself with no applause, when she grows stronger in her heart, her thoughts, and her spirit. She stops waiting for someone to pick her. She realizes she already is chosen. She's no longer scared of being alone. She finds her strength in it. She no longer wonders, am I enough? Instead, she knows, I am more than enough. The journey may feel lonely at first, like you're giving up everything and getting nothing. But give it time. Let the quiet shape you. Let the healing shape you. Because on the other side of that hard season is a woman who doesn't settle, who doesn't hide her power, who doesn't give up her calm just to make others happy. She becomes gentle but strong, kind but firm, open but careful. She doesn't let just anyone into her world. She's done with crumbs when she deserves the whole loaf. She raises her standards, not because she thinks she's better, but because she finally knows what she's worth. And when a woman becomes that aware of her value, she doesn't just draw attention, she attracts purpose. She doesn't just get noticed, she gets aligned with her true path. And here's the best part. When she stops chasing, she creates space. Space for what's meant for her to arrive, the right people, the right doors, the right chances. They begin to appear on their own. She doesn't have to push or rush. She builds a life so rich, so full, so true to herself, that anything not in harmony with her peace just fades away. This isn't about waiting, it's about preparing, becoming, growing into a version of herself that isn't driven by emptiness, but led by fullness. She doesn't chase anymore because she's already complete. She attracts because her energy is real. And when that happens, when she moves in her strength without needing permission, life begins to respond. So, to every woman walking her path alone, believe in this journey. Know that becoming magnetic doesn't mean doing more. it means being more of your true self. Know that your healing, your quiet time, your inner work, it's not a punishment. It's getting you ready. You're becoming a woman who no longer begs to be seen because you now realize you were born to shine. There comes a moment in every strong woman's life when she understands that what she was looking for outside has always lived inside her. The love, the approval, the strength, the calm. It was never in their hands. It was never about who stayed, who walked away, who supported her, or who didn't. It was always about her. The moment she looks inward, her whole world begins to shift. And it's not a soft realization. It's a deep awakening that stirs her soul. When a woman walks alone and listens within, she hears herself clearly for the first time. Not fear, not the voices of others, not the noise of expectations, but the truth. That calm, steady voice that says, "You are enough." The voice that reminds her she doesn't have to chase or prove or perform anymore. And when she listens to that voice, she becomes powerful in the best way. She can't be fooled by fake love anymore. She watches actions, not just listens to words. She no longer breaks herself into pieces to fit where she doesn't belong. She stops lowering her standards for company. She won't give up her peace for anyone. She becomes grounded, firm, and unmovable. There's nothing stronger than a woman who truly knows herself. Not who they told her to be, not who she pretended to be to avoid conflict, but her real, raw self. And when she walks in that truth, she doesn't just survive anymore, she blooms. She's not wasting energy fixing broken people. She's not stretching herself for those who wouldn't lift a hand for her. She knows now that her time, her heart, her presence, it's a privilege, not something anyone can just take. And if someone can't see that, she doesn't fight. She just steps away. She doesn't have to announce her growth. She doesn't have to post about her peace. You can feel it in how she moves and how she speaks and the way she sees the world. She's not loud, but she stands tall. She's not angry, but she's sure of herself. She's not needy, she's wise. Every choice she makes has a reason now. Every yes has meaning. Every no is clear. She's no longer running on auto. She's no longer okay with the bare minimum. She's done waiting for others to say she's worthy. She's learned to believe in herself. Quietly, she's learned to give herself love. She's learned to be her own supporter. And because of that, the right things started showing up, not because she chased them, but because she became someone who naturally attracts what matches her. This is what happens when a woman chooses herself. The things that used to shake her no longer bother her. The people who once had control over her feelings, they can't affect her anymore. She doesn't need closure. She gives it to herself. She doesn't chase answers. She notices patterns. She doesn't go back and forth. She moves forward. Because healing showed her something important. Peace is more valuable than winning an argument. Her power isn't loud or flashy. It's steady, quiet, and real. The kind of power that builds strong things in silence. The kind of strength that forgives but doesn't go backward. The kind that leaves with peace. And that woman, she can't be stopped. Not because she knows everything, but because she's finally asking herself the right questions. What do I need? What do I deserve? What am I no longer accepting? And when she answers honestly, everything changes. Her words change, her actions change, her whole life changes. No more confusion, no more chaos. No more waiting for others to see her value. She's living in harmony now, not with others' opinions, but with her soul's truth. So if you're becoming that woman, don't let anyone make you feel bad for walking alone. Don't feel guilty for putting yourself first. They won't get it. because they haven't done what you're doing. They haven't sat through the quiet. They haven't looked themselves in the eye. They haven't felt the weight of breaking old patterns. But you have, and that changes everything. You're not just walking alone, you're walking with purpose. You're not just pulling away, you're pulling into your power. And every step you take is bringing you closer to your real self. So to the woman walking her own path tonight, don't question it. Don't let the silence fool you. You're not being punished, you're being placed. You're not lonely, you're legendary. Because when a woman walks alone and focuses within, the universe gets quiet just to watch her rise.